From Hampton Beach, New Hampshire, and the historic Ashworth by the Sea Hotel, it's Politics in Progress. With your host, Charlie Sherman.
Good Sunday morning to you, and welcome to another edition of Politics in Progress. I'm Charlie Sherman. We are here once again to talk politics. We're at the beautiful Ashworth by the Sea on Hampton Beach. Our panelists this morning, once again, we have spared no expense. Joining us, Grant Bosse is here from the Josiah Bartlett Center for Public Policy.
Morning. Good to be here.
Good morning. Thank you. Also, the one and only Kathy Sullivan, Democratic National Committee member. Good morning.
Morning, Charlie. Now, are we going swimming afterwards?
We are. We're going to jump in the ocean, or somebody's going to throw us in. And also, the director of the University of New Hampshire Survey Center and associate professor of political science. How's that, Andy? Andy Smith.
Long title. Thank you, Charlie.
Oh, it's good, though. You know, the longer the better. All right, we got a lot to talk about this morning on both a national level and on a local level, so let's get right to it. And for this part, of course, I have to put on my glasses because you know what happens when you get old. All right. Breaking news earlier this week, the chairman of the Senate Finance Committee on Wednesday, Max Baucus, released his much-anticipated version of a health care reform plan, but was knocked back quickly by Republicans and liberal Democratic opposition that called the plan undoable. The bill squeezes the political middle, but largely follows the outline given by President Obama, requiring all individuals to buy health insurance or pay a fine. It prohibits insurance companies from denying coverage based on pre-existing conditions or from imposing caps on payouts. It provides tax credits to help low and middle income families purchase insurance. But some Democrats are upset, Kathy, with the lack of a government-run health care option. Will the bill get the support it needs to pass? Is it practical to insist that citizens buy health insurance?
I don't know, and that's there was just still so many questions as we move forward with health care reform. In Massachusetts has done this. That was sort of the Mitt Romney plan to require people to buy health insurance. I know some people say, well, this is good for for insurance companies, maybe good for the general population. I mean, there are states that force people to buy car insurance, for example, so if you can do that, why not say you have to have health insurance? And one of the problems is that there are many people who could afford to buy health insurance now who don't because they think they're healthy, they want to play the odds. Then something goes wrong and the rest of us end up paying when they end up at emergency rooms and whatnot. So there are some good things about the Baucus plan. There are some things that aren't great. A lot of questions about the Medicaid piece. It will increase eligibility levels for Medicaid to, I think, 133% of poverty, which you want people to have coverage, but can the states afford to pick up that much bigger piece of Medicaid now? So a lot of details to be worked out, and I don't think we're going to see a bill that looks exactly like this at the end of the day. But again, it's one more piece of the puzzle.
Grant, when we talked about this on the morning radio show
Sure.
on WGIR, you weren't really jumping up and down enthused about it.
Well, other than it being way too expensive and not going to work, it's a good idea. Massachusetts now has the highest insurance premiums in the nation. The individual mandate, the employer mandate, doesn't work. And the Baucus bill costs something like $850 billion over 10 years and doesn't even go into effect for a few years. It's ridiculously expensive. It busts the budget. And it's not going to do anything to bring down healthcare costs. There are solutions out there, and there could be a middle ground if you open up the insurance market across state lines, you do something real about tort reform. I'm sure Obama could get some of his ideas in there on what he wants to do with Medicare and Medicaid efficiency. There's a compromise to be reached, but nobody's looking to do it.
Andy, do you think he can get his own party on board?
I think that this is an example of the electoral cycle driving this right now. When Obama got elected, there was a lot of opportunity, a large Democratic majority in the House and the Senate, a lot of motivation with people being concerned about the economy and uncertainty about their health care to get that moving. But as we get further away from that election, which brought a lot of these Democrats into office, and they start worrying about their re-elections in 2010, they become more concerned about the politics of this than the actual policy. And I think that in any sort of fight between a good policy decision and a good political decision, politics wins out. And my sense is that we're going to see this bill continue to get watered down, and there'll be some sort of bill that's passed that's called the Ted Kennedy Memorial Healthcare Reform Act of 2009, but I think it largely will just tinker around the edges, and most of the major things that have been proposed, either in the House and the Senate, are going to get pushed aside. And the problem with that is that Republicans aren't going to really like it. Democrats aren't going to like it. Nobody's going to be happy with what goes on, and I think we're going to have the same sort of debate come up again in the future. This is the third time in my lifetime that I've seen health care reform get pushed, and it all seems to go the same direction.
But Grant, does he have to pass something? Does he need to get something through?
When push comes to shove, they're going to find something that's going to pass. They're going to kick a field goal and declare victory. Just because he can't afford to not have passed something. And people are saying this health care debate, it's going to kill the Obama presidency. I don't think health care is going to kill the Obama presidency. I think the stimulus killed the Obama presidency, and it just took away any credibility that he has on any of these other issues to say that he's going to do it in a reasonable way. It's incredibly unpopular.
No.
People know it's not working, and they don't believe him when he promises health care.
A year ago, remember Lehman Brothers filed bankruptcy? And George Bush was, presented by Paulson saying, we are about to enter the worst depression since the Great Depression, perhaps even worse, because things were so bad. The economy was going off a cliff. As a result of that, we had the first bailout package in order to stabilize the financial markets. Then when Barack Obama became president, economic stimulus package. We are so far removed from that cliff, and it is so irresponsible of Republicans to claim that this has failed. This is so typical. It's the same thing that you've done with the health care debate. Republicans just want to say no. They're just talking about politics. All they want to do is win back the White House, take back some seats, and they have totally lost sight of what's good for the country, what works for the country, what really succeeds for the country, because they've gotten totally away from what their job is in Congress and in Washington, which is to do what's best for our country, and instead of looking at what's best for them, to try to get elected in 2010. It's really sad to see what's happened, and to hear you say, oh, all this is failed, That's not true.
When they passed the stimulus,
anyway, Andy's laughing, Charlie's laughing. I think
actually you're both right here. I think that there's both sides can claim success and both sides can point to failures, but I frankly, call me cynical, but I think that all of this is driven by the next election cycle. Politics in America, for as long as we've had politics in American government, has been driven more by the political cycle and re-election and the desire to get re-elected than the desire to get policy that actually works. And that's if we all agree on what policy actually would work. So the rare occasion when we have major opportunities for legislation, they typically don't come about, and most legislation that gets passed in America about policy that is successful tends to be incremental, small little nibblings around the edges of things, because frankly, when you have any sort of big bill, you don't know what's going to happen, and it's difficult then to point to whether something succeeded or not because so many things have changed.
Well, with the stimulus, they said, well, here's what's going to happen to unemployment. If we do the stimulus, it'll go up this much slower. It went up that much quicker. So either the stimulus didn't work the way they said it would, or they didn't know what they were talking about in the first place. Maybe both.
Well, but Grant, if you had your way, unemployment would have been through the roof.
But the good news, Kathy, is Ben Bernanke told us this week the recession is over.
Exactly.
So well, that's good news.
I feel great. I don't know about you. All right, we have to take a break. You're watching Politics in Progress as we come to you from the Ashworth by the Sea in beautiful Hampton Beach. We'll be right back.